a type of mental illness, a type of mental illness. But I would today focus about mental wellness. And what I often like to say is that you may not necessarily have a mental illness, or yet be mentally unhealthy. You may say, how is that possible? So just the same way you may not have a physical illness, but be physically unhealthy if you are not exercising, you're not eating well, you're not resting well. You may not have a sickness, but you are not necessarily healthy. So maybe we are going to share from our own end, because once again, this thing is just acting up. I really don't know why. But whoever has the slides, I've shared it on the other end. So kindly just share from your own end, and we're just going to do move. So, but while I'm waiting for someone to share, maybe Obiora or whoever has the slide to do that from their own end, because I don't know, my system's acting up again. What I just want to start out with a story. A story I had, I think was 2 years ago. So it was a story about someone called Soichiro Honda. So Soichiro Honda actually is the founder of Honda Company. Now, he started out the company just about when World War II broke out. And story has it that when World War II broke out, they had to, I'm not sure that's World War II or World War I, I'm not sure, but they had to recruit some of his key technical staff. And that was major for the company, because they had to recruit them into the army, the Japanese army. And that kind of affected the company. But they didn't give up. They just went on to revamp the way they were doing the organization, and they still went on to thrive. And then during the war, the company was bombed twice. And the factory where they were producing was bombed twice. And if that was not enough, after the bombing, they took the shells of the bomb and then they used it as materials for some of the things they were doing. So their factory had been bombed, and then they took the shells from the bomb that destroyed their factory as materials. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the company finally, the factory, there was an earthquake, and it completely leveled down the factory. And so there was 2 bombings and an earthquake. Now, remember, in the beginning, there was recruitment of the staff, key staff, technical staff. Then there was bombings, and there was earthquake. The regular person may just say, I think that's enough sign, from divine to just give up and just not do anything anymore. But long and short, we have Honda Company today. And the truth is that at some point, he had to reverse back, it was I think he started using his bicycle because oil was scarce, and so he started so I say what's here, so he started using his bicycle, and then he realized he could add a machine to the bicycle, and people liked it, and then he sold his idea, and that's how they started the Honda machines and went on and all that. I like to tell a story because it's a story of resilience. You see here a picture of a ship on the ocean in a storm. And I often say that on top is chaos. On top there, if there are people on this boat, they'll be afraid, they'll be scared. But at the same exact time, activity is going on beneath the ocean, and there's calmness there. So the whole essence of this conversation is to equip you with skills and just share my thoughts on. I'm just going to exit. I don't know, this thing keeps acting up. Equip you with skills and share my thoughts on the things that you can do to build your mental resilience. First of all, let me define what mental resilience is all about. So mental resilience basically or let me start out by defining what mental health is all about. So there are four things that makes for your mental health. Number one, it's a state of well-being where number one, you are able to optimize your potential. That means be your best version, be the best you. Number two, it's your capacity to work effectively and fruitfully. And number three, it's your capacity to cope with the normal stresses of life. And then finally, it's your capacity to contribute to your community. So you will notice that in my definition, which is the World Health definition of mental health, it has nothing to do with sickness. And that's basically what we are focusing on today. Mental health and mental well-being is not necessarily about illness. It's about being your best you, your best version, being able to cope with stress, being able to work productively. And that's why the conversation today is about how do I build my mental resilience? Or my mental strength? And just the same way you go into the gym and you build your physical body, and you do exercise and build your physical body, you can literally put on my video. So you can literally also build your mental strength. And that is what I'm going to share, some tools, some techniques, things that will make us more mentally resilient. Now, it is important, your mental health is extremely important because mental health has to do with your behavior. I think I mentioned this last week, but I'll just say it again. Has to do with your behavior, with your thinking, and with your mood. So everything that borders on your behavior, your thinking, and your mood basically has to do with your mental health. And so one way to remember these three things is just think about the ATM machine, and with the ATM machine, put a B there, you have BTM. So behavior, thinking, and mood. Anything that borders on that has to do with your mental health. You can change the slides. I've gone way ahead. So next slide, please. So so it basically talks about your mental health is important. The next slide. Your mental health is important basically because it affects your thinking. It affects how you behave. Yes, this is where I am. It affects how you behave. It affects your thinking. And then also mental health and anxiety and depression in particular are said to be a very common cause of occupational disability. I have seen people walk into my office, and to tell me that they want to resign from their place of work, not because there's anything physically wrong with them, but because of the state of their mental health. Recently, I had someone also walk into my office, I think last week, and we went through sessions and all of that. And one of the good things I love about after the session, which is some of the things I'm going to be sharing here, is that she said, before now, I just wanted to resign and I felt incompetent and I felt unworthy. I felt like I could not do my job. But after these sessions, I still want to resign, but this time I'm confident and I'm actually now looking out for other jobs. So mental health literally incapacitates one. And so that's why your mental health is important. Next slide. So the thing about is that I want to talk about mental resilience, what it means to be mentally resilient. Now, number one, it's a skill that can be developed, and that's why we're talking about it. So some people say, some people can cope with stress. Some people know how to go through tough times. Some people don't know how to go through tough times, and someone will say, well, that's just how I am. I'm not so strong. So, but the conversation today is to understand that, look, you may not naturally be like that, but you can develop it. You can learn the skills, you can build the skills. The second thing is that mental resilience is not necessarily just about the outcome. That's the next point. It's not about the outcome. It's about the process. So what do I mean by that? So you can go through maybe a heartbreak, or you go through a traumatic experience, and then you heal from that experience. You go through the experience, and to you feel like, oh, I've gone through the process. Or you suffer some form of loss or embarrassment or whatever, and it was tough in that moment, but then you get to the other side and feel like I'm good now. Now, the problem is that if you don't learn the lessons and you don't really get the real things from that event, when other events happen later in life, you still find yourself just repeating the same thing that you did last time, going through the pain, going through. That's why sometimes it's almost like you say, oh, some people like to go through life not wanting any challenge, not wanting anything to disrupt their equilibrium, if I may use that statement, But life in itself, someone said this, it said that at every given time, it's either you're coming out of a challenge, or you are going through a challenge, or you are heading for a challenge. So life itself has challenges, has stressful moments. If you know this machine that we use in medicine to check your heart rate, it goes beep, 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 beep. It goes like that when you are maybe in the theater or something, or in critical care. It's this machine we use to check whether your heart is beating. Now, the only time that beep goes beep and it's a straight line, what has happened when that happens? Let me see who knows. What happens when the line goes flat? Is that a good thing?
No, it's not.
No. So what happens, David? What happens when that goes flat?
It means there's no pulse anymore. Basically,
exactly. The person is dead. Exactly. That's what I wanted to catch and bring out. The person is dead. That those fluctuations, I like to say that's how life is. Life has fluctuations. It has great moments, low moments, and all of that. And the only time life goes bing is when you are dead. But you see, the idea of mental resilience is your capacity to bounce back, following adversity. I started out sharing the story of Shotiro Honda, how he was able to constantly bounce back through all of those challenges and not just cave in, and that is what resilience is really about. And it's really not just about bouncing back from negative events. Sometimes even good things can cause stress. So you get a new job, a job that you've been wanting to have, and then finally you get the job, but you find yourself caving in under the pressure and under the stress of this good thing, and so it's your capacity to bounce back. And like I said, it's not just about getting to the end. It's not about the outcome. It's about the process. It's not just it's about how you go through the process, the lessons learned. Because when you get good and when you get better, life has challenges. But the truth is that when you understand how to manage stress, regardless of what life throws at you, regardless of the challenges you go through, you'll be like the fish in the water that despite the storm on the top of the sea, you are still calm and you are able to go about your activities and you are able to remain productive. And that is really what, that's why I said productivity is making certain choices in certain ways that moves you from merely being just busy to being productive. And that's what we want. So, like I said, I have 30 minutes, so I want to really focus on these techniques. I'm just going to share here briefly and some ways we cope with stress that is not very healthy. It may just don't move, just follow me, just stop there. Yeah, thank you. Whoever is doing this thing, my DJ, you are doing a great job. DJ, you're on point. So the thing is that sometimes in dealing with stress, some people take drugs. Some people take alcohol excessively. Now we say that addiction is a primary problem. Now, I'm not saying the person has become an addict, and I'm going to just quickly drop something here because I want you to get value for this session. So there are 7 things we normally check out for. And let me just quickly put those 7 things. So if you're writing, you can just take them because this is on the slide. Number 1, if you feel a strong urge to use the drug. Number 2, if you have increased your quantity of use over time. So whether it's whatever drug, alcohol or any other drug. Number 3, if you feel some level of discomfort when you don't use the drug, And then number 4, if you find yourself spending more time than planned, you intend to, maybe you say, I want to use this X amount, but you use more time than planned. Number 5, if you find yourself having stopped or planning to stop, or having reduced, but then you go back to using. Number 6, if you have continued using despite knowledge of harm. Now, then finally, if you find yourself, I talked about if you find yourself continue using despite knowledge of harm. I can't remember the 7th one. It will come back to me. But basically, if you have 3 out of this 6 that I've mentioned, because some people use 6 and some people use 7. If you have 6 out of this, then you are not becoming an addict. You're already an addict. And the problem is that sometimes when drugs don't care how you started it. So maybe you started out of curiosity, maybe you're going through stress, and then you started it. And after the stress has gone, the problem may remain. Okay, the problem may remain. Okay, so and then the next point, DJ. Next point, avoidance. So some people, you go through challenges, you go through stuff, your way of coping, and then you can put the next point, because the next point is also similar to this, is that for some people we want to avoid the challenge. We feel like the way we deal with stress is, I don't just want to even deal with stress at all. You just want to stay away from stress. You want to withdraw from the situation. Now, it may be healthy. It may seem not healthy. It may seem good in the immediate, but sometimes avoiding certain situations don't necessarily doesn't make the problem go. Just the same way someone who goes ahead to use drugs, the problem doesn't go away just because you're avoiding it. So these are maladaptive. They are called maladaptive because they are not healthy ways of dealing with stress. Then there's something called unrestrained display of feelings. This is where you throw a tantrum. This is where you get into a rage. This is where you say things, very hurtful things. And you say, when I'm angry, I can't control myself. It's just me and all of that. You see, if you keep doing that and you keep dealing with life, maybe in a relationship, could be a work relationship, it could be a romantic relationship. You keep dealing with life. That's where you go into real rage and real display of your feelings. You will drive people away, or you will break trust. Even when you are now calmer and you say, okay, I'm now good now. You shouldn't have done that and all of that. You may say, I'm sorry, but trust would have been broken. People will have been hurt on the way. So these are ways people deal with stress. And then there's deliberate self-harm, that need to harm yourself, that need to injure yourself and all that. These are unhealthy ways people deal with stress. So now let's go into the crux of the conversation today. Now, DJ, you were doing excellently well, but the last slide, you wanted to spoil my market, but it will not work. So DJ, try to just follow me this time. Follow the points one by one. So I'm going to share 10 points, 10 things that they are not exhaustive, but these are key things you use to build your resilience. So number 1, DJ, is information. To deal and to manage and to get better in managing stress and being mentally resilient is improve your information about the situation. So let me explain it this way. There's a saying that I love. It says that when you've done everything that you know and it is still not working, then perhaps all that you know is not enough. I sent a message out last week to someone and I said, how are things now? The person had reached out and said things were really tough for her in terms of her marriage. And she said, look, and then we had sessions. And after the sessions, she sent me a message and said, things significantly and tremendously improved after our sessions. What changed? Information. Have you ever wondered how, when you get into maybe a new role, and especially the new role is new and it's unfamiliar, initially it's stressful, but as you get a hang of it, it becomes less stressful. The work has not changed. It's just that your information level has changed. Life in itself is like that. The difference between the different people is not necessarily the stress in itself. It's about the capacity they have built. And information is how you build your capacity. The more knowledgeable you are about certain things, about relationships. Some people go have a lot of relationship stress because they do not know about how it works. Some people have workplace stress because they do not know how. So, and sometimes we are maybe depending on our faith, where we are at and our personality type, some of us are not necessarily good at asking questions, necessarily good at saying, look, I need help. And the problem is sometimes is not the problem itself, is that you don't have adequate information. Before I move on to the next point, let me give this other illustration. So imagine going to write an exam. You go write, you want to write, you enter the examination hall and you write the exam, you are struggling, you are sweating. The one person there that's, one of those funny people will now be asking for extra sheets and now be asking for this thing. You will now be wondering, that is it the same exam that we're writing? What's the difference between you and the other person? The level of information. That's how life is. So some people go through challenges. They are not faced because they are more equipped with information than others. The next point is reevaluation. Now you take the situation, whatever you've gone through, maybe your past events, maybe what you are going, and ask yourself, how else can I look at this situation? You see, the problem is not the problem in itself. The real problem is how you see the problem. The real problem is how you see the problem. So to reevaluate is to look at that situation and say, how else can I look at this situation? For example, we say sometimes you win and then sometimes you do what? You can just put in the chat room. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Okay, that's more. Who else? Sometimes you win, sometimes you. I'm still leaving it out there. And sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. Okay, Mia. Okay. And sometimes you lose and sometimes you lose. And sometimes, Justin, finally, you learn. In other words, so that's the word I was looking for. Sometimes you learn. In other words, rather than look at the situation as a loss event, ask yourself, what can I learn? And if you ask, and let me tell you something, if you just flip, if you stop looking at life like win and lose, if you stop looking at life as winning and failure, then you begin to not beat yourself over too much. Then you begin to ask yourself, when adverse effects, when adverse situations, when unpleasant things happen to you, you say, what can I learn? What can I learn? What is there for me to learn? Rather than focusing on why did it happen? Why did it happen to me? What are the things that I can learn? When you start seeing life like that, remember I talked about information. That's one of the things that make people resilient. Resilient people don't focus on why, they focus on what. They don't focus on why did it happen. They focus on what can I learn. That's how resilient people think. That's how resilient people come into a situation. So they don't easily get overwhelmed because they are looking at it a different way. The third one is DJ. Is affirmation. What you say to yourself. Now, it's not so much about how much. Affirmation is not just being overly positive, but affirmation is also recognizing the positivity inside of you. That's speaking words. Now, many times we can be very negative, and life itself can be negative, and the world can, even sometimes people are even positive towards you, but you don't spend enough time speaking positive words over yourself. People who are mentally resilient or who know the art. Remember, I said it's a skill that can be developed. So even if you are not naturally like that, you can develop it. In other words, let me take these first three things. If you go into a new situation and then you are feeling stressed and you understand that, look, my stress may be coming from my inadequate information, then you go for information and then it becomes easier. And then you begin to look at the situation and say, how else can I look at it? And affirmation is where you begin to speak to yourself. I am good, I'm worthy, I'm beautiful. Now, those things are not just cycling yourself. You're actually saying your truth, which is the truth. It's just that sometimes we are quick to pick the negative and not pick the positive. So speaking those words, saying those things to yourself, and not just waiting for someone else to say it, actually affirming yourself, affirming your strength, affirming the good parts of you. It makes you feel good, and it puts you in a place where you are creative. See, the problem about going through life often stressed and just under so much pressure is that when you are constantly stressed, you stay in something called survival mode. But when you stay in a resilient place, you move from survival mode to creativity mode. So, and these are techniques you can literally use to bring yourself into that. Number 4 is connection. So I got 15 minutes to go. Connection, connecting to people, connecting to people. Last week I said that statement and I'm going to repeat it again. There are people who bring joy wherever they go. And then there are also people who bring joy whenever they go. So you connect. So those who bring joy wherever, and then those who bring joy whenever they go. Now, connecting to people is very important. In 2020, the world experienced COVID and the impact of COVID, and even this year, the conversation on mental awareness in this month of May is about loneliness. Because of the impact that lack of connection can cause. In fact, connection is known to be a very powerful tool in terms of building your mental health and in terms of even your physical health. There was one research that was done and they showed that people that live long had better connections. So learning to connect with people, and the truth is this, you can have a sea of people around you and still not feel connected. So learning the art of connection, and it's not about being an introvert or an extrovert. You can be an extrovert and really not be connected. You can also be an introvert and be well connected. So intentionally connecting to people, intentionally not just being that person that stays, all to himself and just, build your own world. Connecting to people is a powerful tool in building your resilience. Number 5 is organization. Organization simply means being able to plan and being able to manage your time. So imagine a box, a travel box. You want to go on a journey, and then you take a travel box and you throw all sorts of clothes inside, all your shoes, all whatever, all the things you travel with. You throw those things without necessarily arranging them. And then you have box B. And then within box B, you carefully fold your stuff, carefully put them in different corners in the box, and you arrange them properly, in box B. Box A, you just throw things without necessarily arranging, and box B, you carefully arrange them. I want to ask, which of these two boxes will take more? Box A, you just throw things. The box is the same capacity, but in one box, you arrange. In the second box, you just throw things into it. Which one will take more? I can see Mia is answering this question. You think she wants to win something, this stuff. But don't worry, don't mind me. I'm very happy, please. You are encouraging me. Just look at me. Somebody has tried to help me. I'm discouraging. Okay, go ahead. So yeah, the one that was arranged, exactly. Box B. Thank you. The one that was arranged. Now, see, it's the same capacity, but because one was arranged and the other was not disorganized, the same capacity, I mean, what I say, the same life, the same space, but different, and the same capacity, but one takes more than the other. Now, a research was done in Wuhan, China. So apart from COVID, other things come from Wuhan, So, and they took this group of people, and for I think it was 115 of them, and half of them, they trained them in time management, and the other half were just left to the control, were left to just live their lives. After 6 months, they checked their quality of sleep, they checked their anxiety level, and they checked their symptoms of depression. And they found out that the people that were better organized, the people that managed their time better, had better quality of sleep, had less level of stress and anxiety, and less symptoms of depression. So that just points out the place of being organized. Being organized allows you, and to be organized, you have to be, because the problem is that sometimes some of us know how to add things to our lives. And while we are adding, we forget to subtract things for our lives. You cannot keep adding activities without subtracting. You are going to get swamped. So learn to say no and get good at saying no. Someone said this. He said, you become effective by being selective. So busyness is not equivalent to productivity. So that activity and just doing a lot of things does not mean you're a productive person. So learning to be more organized builds your capacity to take much more, to be able to do a lot of things, and yet you are organized. You are doing much more than somebody that's handling little, but yet is very disorganized. So that's another point. The next point, DJ, is confrontation. So remember, I talked about avoidance and withdrawal. Some people like to avoid situations, like to withdraw from situations. But you see, there are some kind of stressors that you go through, some kind of life challenges that you go through that's not going to get better until you confront it. I'll share a story. I'll just leave the story there. Anything you want to do with this story, it's left to you. But I remember while I was doing residency, one of my bosses said something to me once. Now, in medicine, it's not strange in Nigeria for your boss to talk down at you and talk at you in a certain way. There's a lot of hierarchy. And he said something to me, and I just told him that, sir, that's quite inappropriate. I do not take lightly to that kind of statement. Let's focus on the work. Don't insult the person. Well, the truth is this: it shocked my boss as I responded like that. And the truth is that it also shocked me that I responded like that. But what the truth is that never happened again. So sometimes you need to confront your challenge rather than, some people are, and I'm like that, don't like confrontations. A lot of us don't like confront, not just some people. But the truth is that sometimes you need to confront that challenge. If you don't confront that challenge, it's likely going to go on for a long time, and then you constantly feel stressed. So some of the challenges you are going through, some of the reason why you are constantly pressured is because you have not taken time to confront that challenge. And then number 7, doing good with time, is learn to relax. Take out time to just chill. Take out time to just unwind. It's important you rest. Don't keep just going. There's something I see quite a number of us do. Now, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to any shades or anything, but I see quite a number of people take this business, take that. I mean, you're working for like 20 companies and working for 20 people and all that. And then when they finally give you leave, your leave is not really leave. The leave is that you went to another place to continue the hustle. Like the hustle is real, and all of that. The Canadian dream and all of that. Well, if you get it, but the hustle is real. So learn to just relax, learn to chill. There are 3 things that are very important in terms of your physical health. Number 1, what you eat, your diet, is very important. Number 2, exercise, it's very important. And then number 3, sleep. These 3 things are very, very important in terms of your physical well-being. And of these 3 things, the most important of these 3 is sleep. So exercise, diet, and sleep. And of the 3, sleep is the most important. So learn to relax, learn to just unwind. Number 9, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Next point is meditation. So life will throw at you things sometimes that you really can't. You can do all of those other things. Meditation is just to focus your mind, and there are various forms of medication. Prayer is a form of medication, meditation, sorry. And there are Asian forms of meditation. A lot of people do a lot of forms of meditation that's Asian based. and think that that's the only form of meditation that works. Not necessarily. So learning to focus your mind, learning to put your mind on something that's positive, something that refreshes you. It could be prayer, it could be worship, whatever. That's one way you build very, very strong resilience. It helps through challenging times. That way you are not necessarily faced. Okay, and then second to the last is motion. Motion, very key. Motion creates emotion. Motion just talks about exercise, your physiology, being in good shape. That puts your physical health is connected to your mental health, just the same way your mental health is connected to your physical health. So exercise, don't take it lightly, do that, and that will help. And then I will end with the final one, which is, if you notice, I am someone who likes all these Sean, things that rhymes, all this kind of thing. I must not put it like this. So I could have just written knowledge instead of information, but knowledge will not rhyme with evaluation. So I now said, okay, let me put it as information. But this last one, as simple as it may sound, or this thing, if it refused to enter the Sean thing, so I just put it as it is, forgiveness. Now, I'll tell you a story as I round up. As a resident in psychiatry, that's when I was training to become a specialist and a consultant. A man walked into the office. I trained in Abelta, Arabelta. I went to Arabelta, and this man walks in, and he had been referred from the general hospital to psychiatric hospital. And if you are referred to a psychiatric hospital, they don't come to psychiatric hospital to give birth. You come to psychiatric hospital for mental health issues. And it's not like so, and it's very wrong concept to think that mental health is about tearing your shirt and doing Incredible Hulk and all that kind of thing. No, that mental health is not just about that. So this man comes to the hospital, is having a lot of physical complaints and a lot of physical complaints, and also could not sleep. And they had done several tests and they just could not explain why he was having those symptoms. That condition actually is called somatoform disorder. And soma means body. So you will have physical complaints, and it happens quite a lot. I see it quite a lot in general practice, where people go to the hospital and they keep diagnosing you with malaria and typhoid every single month, and it's really about stress. So this man comes and he lays his complaint, and he tells me a story about how while he was married, his wife had done something that really hurt him. And this was, if I remember clearly, this was about 13 years after they had separated. They had been married for 11 years, and this was 13 years after they had separated. But he was still holding on to the pain and was still holding on to that event. And I said to him, that was the first time I came in contact. This was as far back as possibly 2008. And then I said to him that, look, I was a young psychiatrist then, but I said, the challenge you're having, or a younger psychiatrist, I was a younger psychiatrist. I said, the challenge then is that you have not let go. And the thing about unforgiveness, like you could do your own personal research, it has impact on your mental health. It's like drinking poison and hoping that your enemy will die. That's what unforgiveness does to you. So when you hold back and you hold a grudge, maybe against someone that has done something, maybe while you were growing up, your parents or someone or something currently, unforgiveness has a way it impacts on your mental health. I often say that when you try to run through life trying to prove something to people or prove something to someone, it's like going on bad fuel. It's like you put bad fuel into your car and you are hoping to go well. Unforgiveness destroys from the inside. So to have good mental health, you have to get better at learning to let people go. And then the second thing is also learning to forgive yourself. So if you've made mistakes in the past, also letting it go. Letting it go. Don't hold it back. Don't hold it to yourself. Just release it. If you practice these 10 things that I've shared, I'm very confident. Now, the key thing is not in knowing them, The key thing is actually in practicing them. You practice these things. Now it takes time, it takes experience, it takes growth. So it's not like you're just going to leave this place and have all of this. But the essence of sharing all of this with you is knowing that, look, there are various things I can do. And I'll leave you with this. Because when COVID struck, I asked myself, I said, okay, you're a psychiatrist, you're a psychologist, and people are going through tough times, and we are going through tough times. I run an organization, people are going through tough times. How do we go through these things? This is new. And that's when I came up with this. I just said there must be something that we have now, that even though this is a new experience, but there's something from our previous experience. That's why I talked about, it's not about the outcome, it's about the process. If you've learned the skills, then regardless of the new situation, regardless of the new challenge, you will apply one of these things. When I talk about evaluation and re-evaluation, sometimes it's to look at that situation and say, what can I be grateful for, rather than focusing on what is the pain. So with these few words of mine, I hope this was refreshing, and I hope you learned something. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tiffy. Thank you very much. I learned quite a lot of things, Sha. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm assuming that this was really insightful, and the things that you mentioned that could help building mental resilience, I'm very sure that we'll take that into consideration, because sometimes things can be hard, and these tips are actually quite useful. So time for questions. Does anyone have any questions? Please indicate by raising your hand, that thing that you raise. Okay, David, Justin. Okay, we'll start with David. You can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maya. Good morning, Doctor. Thank you very much for your session last week, this week. It's been really insightful. So my question is this. My question is about sleep, actually. For the longest time, I've always believed that I was nocturnal by nature, right? I hardly sleep at night. Basically my sleeping pattern was irregular, right? And you mentioned something about sleep as part of being one of the very important things that, it's needed for the body. So my question is this: is it the duration of the sleep or the consistency in the sleep? So say, for example, is it like you must have your 8-hour sleep every day, or you can even have less than 8 hours, but as long as it's consistent, say between 12 to 4 every day, and you maintain that pattern, is that, which of it is good? Is it the duration or the consistency in the time that you sleep? Thank you. That's my question. Yeah.
Okay. New dads need sleep. Okay. Thank you so much, David. That's a very good question. So so it's not about the duration. So we say that the proper amount of sleep anyone should have, it's about is 5 hours plus or minus, 7 hours plus or minus 2. That's the normal for sleep. So, and if you notice plus or minus 2, that means it's actually a range between 5 to 9 hours. So we all don't sleep 8 hours. Some people don't sleep 8 hours. Some people just do 5, and that's fine. And even when we define insomnia, that's lack of sleep. Lack of sleep is never defined in terms of hours. It is defined as a subjective complaint. That means that the individual says, I am not sleeping well. So someone can be doing 4 hours, and that's their normal, and they don't have any issues with that. But somebody else may do the same 4 hours and say, I am not sleeping well. So it's not about the duration. It's really about, it's personalized. And sleep is never the same throughout your entire lifetime. So there are phases of your life where you sleep a certain way, another phase you will sleep a certain way, and all of that. So it's never, we are not robots, so we don't sleep the same way throughout our entire lifetime.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are you a new dad? Someone said new dad.
Anybody. Yes, I am.
Congratulations. Okay.
I just your hand was up. A question.
Yeah, hello. Good morning, Dr.
Yeah, good morning, Pierre.
David. Thank you for this wonderful session. Yeah, so my question has to do with sleep. Yeah. So the first one, I don't know if it's not relevant, but I think sometimes most of all these what they call them inspiration talkers that say, oh, you don't need to sleep long, like you need to have lesser sleep if you want to be someone in life. So your likes of Jeff Bezos, while people are sleeping, they are working. So things like this actually affect some people. At a point, I was actually believing on this set of people, though it actually helped me because I was able to use that period to learn a lot of things. Instead of me to have like 8 hours sleep, probably though, because sleeping has been a problem for me for a very long time. So I don't take anything that has to do with caffeine, down to Coca-Cola. I don't take Coca-Cola because it affects my sleep. Well, when I was in school, if I want to read for exams, I'll just take a bottle of Coke and my eyes will be wide open for like 2 days. So I know my body system, but it gets to a point where I can sleep for like 18 hours. That has happened to me. Like that's why I always pray for holidays. I'll just, would I say, switch off. Then I'll sleep for longer hours when I know that, yes, I'm not going to work. I'm not responding to anybody. So probably, I think maybe it's my body system that actually adjusts to moments like that. But when I know, yes, I'm coming to the office, I'm supposed to wake up by a certain time. Even if I sleep like 2 hours before me waking up, I'll still wake up by the time I'm supposed to wake up in the morning. So is that a sign of like, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a lack of sleeping or though I have nothing to do with when it comes to mental health. No, yeah, but the sleeping, is it harmful?
To sleep
not
excessively?
Sleeping, but when I have the time to sleep, like I can take the whole day to sleep. So is there any negative effects?
Okay, so there's something we call the homeostatic process. In medicine, we say there's sleep is two processes affect sleep: homeostasis and circadian. That means that circadian simply means there's like an internal clock we have. So our internal clock, at a certain time, our body starts shutting down. Homeostasis just talks about the longer you stay awake, the more pressure you will feel to fall asleep. So, for example, if you are staying awake throughout the entire night, by morning time, there'll be like a pressure to sleep. But these two processes work hand in hand. So it's not, I'm going to spare you long conversations on that, but there's really nothing, like I said earlier, sleep is not the same for everybody. Two, sleep is not the same for even the same person throughout his lifetime. And there will be days where you sleep longer, days you sleep shorter. Sleep will be affected by different things. You have an appointment the following day, so your body is more anxious. There's some level of, you have to travel the following day. You have an exam and all of that. That's going to reduce your sleep. Then when you have done so much and your body has gone through a lot of hectic work, you are likely going to go into deeper sleep, longer sleep. But the problem for us, before we say sleep has become a problem, the one, it has to be something that is repetitive, quite frequent, like more than 3 times in a week, and it has to have happened for a period of time, like 3 to 6 months consistently, and then it should also have some level of impact on your daily activities. If none of these 3 things, if none of these 3 things are affected, meaning that it's not repetitive, like more than 3 times in a week, and it's not consistent for 3 to 6 months, and it's not affecting your everyday this thing, then you really don't have much to be overly worried about as regards your sleep.
Afarabi, has that answered your question? Is he on call? It's not there. Okay, we'll go to the next question then. Tommy Singh.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for this very insightful session. My question is about sleep versus rest.
Okay.
So I know most people confuse sleep for rest, and I wanted a medical perspective, professional advice on what rest people can actually take, rather than concluding that sleeping is a form of it's a form of rest, but rather than thinking sleeping is resting. What forms of rest can people actually take to better enhance their health and lifestyle, please? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. To rest, I wouldn't say whether there's a medical terminology, but then it's to say to slow down. To sleep is to sleep. That is. Now the thing is that it is usually during sleep that your body rejuvenates. It's usually during sleep, not rest. It's usually so rest has its benefits, sleep has its benefits. So it should not be one for the other. It should be one and the other. So there should be moments where you rest, and there should also be moments where you have very good sleep. So for instance, if you are not sleeping well, and then you don't do a lot of things and you're always resting, that's resting is that rest basically has to do with activities. So that's when we talk about rest, it's about reducing activities or slowing down on activities. That's you are resting, or not doing things that are taxing. That's resting. But sleep is that you're entirely shutting down. You're shutting down, and and all of that. So it's one and the other. I don't know if that answers, but there's really no medical, to the best of my knowledge, there's no medical terminology in terms of, but they are two separate. And I like the question because they are two separate things. There are people who do a lot of resting but don't do a lot of sleeping. And it's not necessarily the same. So you need to do both.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Tommy C. Hope that answers your question. Justin, your hand was up, but I'm not sure. Have you asked a question? Is Justin on this call? Maybe he's having some internet problems. But yeah, does anyone have any other question? Because we are about to round up. Ask your questions now, please. If you're having some network problem, you can just type it in the comment section. Well, it seems we have no other questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Tiffy. Thank you very much. Very, very insightful stuff. We learned a lot, and we take the tips to build mental resilience. We take it very seriously, and we try to rest and sleep, as that was the focus of most of the questions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending this session, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi, Mia.
Hi, Tentokwe. Sorry.
No problem. I should have. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Edebi. Thank you for the sessions. Good morning, everyone. So this is just to say that by 10, the medical checkup is going to kick off. We have people in the office already. So if they are not here yet, please start heading to the physical office. So the medical talk is going to start at 10 a.m. through this Tuesday learning session link. Yes, and after that, the physical exercise checkup is the actual checkup is going to start at 10:15 a.m. So yeah, see you by 10. Thank you. Okay, we are not shutting this down, right? Good. No, okay. Thanks everyone. And thank you, Miho.
You're welcome.